My mom's storage room is only 70 square feet,
said my eldest son and his wife, who had suggested we all live together. Turns out the home renovation was a scheme to kick me out. After showing me around the renovated house, they finally dropped the bomb. I have a way to wipe the smug smiles off their faces, and now's the time to use it. My name is Sarah, and I'm 60 years old. I lost my husband to cancer 3 years ago and now live alone. All my children are independent, and I'm the only one living in this old house. My eldest son and his wife have been suggesting a renovation, but I've been hesitant because of the memories attached to this home. All my children have their own families and live nearby. In the end, none of them left our hometown. I'm blessed with grandchildren and feel proud of my life. The only concern I have is my eldest son's wife, Jessica. I found her difficult to deal with ever since my son John introduced her as his fiancée. She's outspoken, which sounds good, but she often puts herself first, making me wonder why John chose her. John used to be a quiet guy, but he's changed since he started dating Jessica. Their wedding was all about fulfilling Jessica's wishes. I had advised them to balance their seating arrangements, but it was all about Jessica's friends, which was unsettling. On the day, Jessica's parents intervened, but if they hadn't, John would have been sidelined. When I asked John about it, he said,
"I left the seating to Jessica."
"You can't leave everything to others," I advised, especially since they were about to become a married couple. I did give advice, but I felt it was only a matter of time before Jessica took control. Initially, John had offered to live with us, concerned about our aging. We were thrilled, but Jessica opposed it, saying, "I absolutely don't want to live together as newlyweds." Apparently, they had discussed it before getting married, but Jessica changed her mind at the last minute. Forcing a living situation with a reluctant bride could lead to mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issues, and we decided to give up on living together for now. My daughter Emily is also very wary of Jessica. Emily told me she had heard rumors about Jessica's flashy lifestyle during their student days. Jessica is indeed a striking beauty who lights up any room. I laughed off Emily's concerns, thinking they were just rumors born out of jealousy. Emily said, "Just consult me if anything happens." I'm grateful she's always looking out for me. 2 years after my husband passed away, John and his wife made a proposal to me. The time had come to consider living together. The apartment where John and his wife were living was becoming cramped with the arrival of their child. I was happy at the thought of them moving into my spacious but empty house, especially since my husband had passed away. Having my grandchild around would surely liven up my quiet days. I had no reason to oppose my eldest son and his wife's proposal. However, they wanted to renovate the old house before moving in. The plumbing was outdated, and the flooring could use an upgrade for the grandkids. Separate rooms for each child would also become necessary. As I age, I had been thinking about making the house more accessible, so renovating now made sense. "Sure, go ahead and make the place more livable," I agreed. And so my cherished home was set for a makeover. From now on, my eldest son and his wife would be the primary residents. As long as they secured a space for my altar and my room, I was fine with leaving the rest to them. I should have discussed things more at that time, but I thought it was better to let them handle it. During the renovation, I assumed John and his wife would take care of me, But that wasn't the case. Jessica informed me there was no space for me to live comfortably, so I turned to Emily for advice. Emily and her husband warmly welcomed me into their home. Their kindness was a joy, and living with them was delightful. Emily's husband had lost his parents, and he treated me as if I were his own mother. While the renovation was underway, they even took me on trips. They also contributed financially to the renovation, even though they wouldn't be living there. I told my eldest son to thank them, but there was no sign of gratitude. And they wouldn't let me see the renovation progress, saying it was still dangerous. I was getting a bit anxious. One day, I decided to secretly check on my house with Emily and her husband. Something felt off. The interior looked great, and the construction seemed to be going well. I brushed off my uneasy feeling at that moment. "Where will the altar go?" Emily casually mentioned as we were leaving. That's when I realized I hadn't seen a spot for it. We probably missed it because it was dark. I reassured her, smiling at Emily, who was nervously biting her nails. The next day, Emily seemed concerned. She's more observant than me. And her husband is an architect with a home office and studio. Emily spent some time consulting with him in the studio. I could hear the lively voices of John's children, my grandchildren in the background. That night, after putting the grandkids to bed, Emily called me into her studio with a simple, "Hey, can we talk?" Spread out on the table was a floor plan. "What's this?" "It's the floor plan of our new family home before the renovation, and this one is the new floor plan." I figured Emily must have used her husband's connections to get these. Blueprints, renovation plans, and floor plans were all in Emily's possession. Laying the two side by side, it was clear the house had undergone a complete transformation. It hardly resembled the original layout. "Don't you find it odd? I thought something was off when we visited yesterday." Emily pointed to the new floor plan as she explained. "There's no space for Mom's altar, or even a room that resembles mine." Upon closer inspection, she was right. The place to put the altar and anything that looks like my room are gone. The sunny room facing the garden, which used to be mine and my husband's, seemed to have been converted into a room for the eldest son and his wife. "This must be why they didn't want us to know the progress," Emily said, her face a mix of disbelief and frustration. I had a clear agreement with John. I kept going back and forth between the plans, unable to believe that none of my wishes were reflected. "I can't believe this." Emily tightly gripped my hand. "Mom, if they're playing games, we can play too." She encouraged me with determination. Emily advised me to act oblivious for a while. It seemed she wanted to give them enough rope to hang themselves. In the meantime, we'd prepare our counter move. Emily's husband had checked with the construction company, and it turned out Jessica was the one mainly pushing the project forward. Apparently, she had been quite demanding, causing headaches for the project manager, and they had told the contractor they'd be living there as a family of 4. Emily was so angry she looked like she was about to confront John and his wife right then and there. I was more stunned than angry, my mind eerily calm. "Mom, the renovation will be complete tomorrow. Come take a look." John's message came about a month after my secret visit to the construction site. It seems the work was finally done. "All right, I'll come with Emily and the others," I responded, pretending to be clueless. They were moving in the next day. Most likely, they'd thrown away most of the stuff we'd left behind. I was just grateful Emily had moved my late husband's keepsakes. The next day, Emily, her husband, and I went to our old home. The exterior hadn't changed much, but it looks like they'd repainted the walls. As we entered the gate, John and his wife came out to greet us. Jessica was smirking. She was probably imagining the drama that was about to unfold. I thought to myself, he really married a piece of work. We were shown around the house, room by room. The interior was completely different. Some of the original structures remained, but it felt like a brand new house. We were led into the living room. "It's beautiful. It's like a brand new house." Smiling at Jessica, I said, "It's really transformed into something beautiful." She grinned back, clearly proud, and went on to boast about how she had masterminded the entire renovation. "By the way, where's my room in all of this? And there's no space for an altar either?"
You saw it. Your room is the storage room,
John said, mocking me. Indeed, they had shown me a 70-square-foot storage room. It was a room with a tiny window that hardly got any sunlight. Probably the dampest room in the house.
70 square feet is enough for Dad's pictures, right?
Hearing John's words, I felt a deep sadness. Where had my kind son gone? They probably thought my silence was due to shock. Jessica was looking at me with a nasty smirk. "Unhappy with my renovation plans? If you don't like it, leave. No need for an old lady here." I gently held Emily's knee as she was about to stand up in anger. Their true colors were finally showing. John and his wife had planned to take over the family home from the start. I understood that their apartment was getting cramped as their child grew. They knew I would help fund the renovation if they talked about living together. It was all a scheme by my eldest son and his wife. "So there's no place for me in this new home, is that it?" I asked, glaring at both of them. They nodded, smirking as if enjoying my dilemma. "Fine, I'll leave." "I will," I said, smiling back at their smug faces. Jessica looked a bit deflated. She probably thought I'd put up more of a fight. I think he probably wanted to tease me more. Emily called in someone who had been waiting at a nearby cafe. A man in a well-tailored suit appeared. He shook hands with John and his wife and handed them his business card. It was from a law firm, and they seemed confused. Another man arrived. With everyone present, I spoke again. "I'm leaving, so I'm selling this house," I declared, looking straight at John and his wife. They were both stunned. We had anticipated this and had prepared our countermove long ago. "What are you talking about? You're the one leaving. We renovated this place." Jessica started yelling, her face turning red. Ignoring her, I signed the final sale contract. This finalized the sale. Jessica's face changed when she noticed. "Wait, are you even capable of making sound decisions? Your signature has no—" She stopped yelling midway. Suddenly, the color drained from John and his wife's faces. They seemed to have realized a significant oversight.
Mom, are you serious?
John looked at me with questioning eyes. I nodded firmly. They were the ones who had started this fight. They had planned to kick me out and dump the house on Emily and her husband. I had always dreamed of living under the same roof with my grandchildren, filling the house with laughter and love. But John and Jessica shattered that dream, and I couldn't forgive them for it. I own this house. Since it seems I can't live here, I've decided to sell it. I've already spoken to a real estate agent about handling the details. Waiting at the coffee shop were a lawyer and a real estate agent. I had them on standby so we could finalize the sale immediately. John looked stunned as he read the sales contract. Jessica's face turned ghostly white. Apparently, the lease on the apartment where John and his family currently live is ending this month. They were now in a bind, needing to find a new place to live as soon as possible.
Hold on, where are we supposed to live now?
John called out to me as I was about to leave. His voice dripped with a manipulative sweetness, and I was sick of it. Jessica seemed to be pinning her hopes on John's plea. They must think I have a soft spot for my eldest son. Why don't you talk to the real estate agent about that? At my words, John's shoulders slumped in defeat. Jessica let out a scream-like sound, calling me a monster. John and Jessica tried to apologize multiple times afterward, but Emily never let them see me. The newly renovated house quickly found a buyer, and another family has already started their new life there. John and Jessica, it seems, had drained their savings on the renovation and were now financially strapped. They ended up moving to an even smaller apartment than before. Their children, my grandchildren, didn't like the cramped space and left. Now, John's kids are living in my new home. Apparently, the day after we secretly visited the construction site, John's children had consulted Emily. They were concerned about the absence of a room for Grandma in the new house. My grandchildren are innocent in all this. Jessica has even lost the affection of her own children. John, now reprimanded by his kids and regretful for forcing them into a smaller home, knows they're staying with me. These days, it seems fights between John and Jessica are constant. I'm living comfortably in the new house that Emily's husband designed for me. I didn't want to make my grandchildren uncomfortable, so I had rooms made for them too. When I invited them to live with me, they moved in right away. The lively household I had always wished for is now a reality. Making lunch for my grandchildren has become my new joy in life.